I'm Melissa Chartrand. I'm here with Rachael Ollagnon, or close enough, Rachael O.
That's okay.
And Anna Botstford. We're here at the Annex as a part of Sturgis Charter High School, and we're here to talk all things theater.
Yes.
And climate change too, we'll work that in. Thank you so much for joining me. We have so much to talk about. Let's first talk about this building and what takes place here.
Well, this is, we refer to it as the Annex. It's part of Sturgis East, and it houses the theater classes, music classes, and wellness classes. And has been a great addition. It gives us a lot more space, and as I was saying before, and room to make noise without disturbing other classes.
That's right, lots of noise. And noise coming up for rehearsals for two plays we have at the Cotuit Center for the Arts coming up very quickly, first week of February. So let's first talk about the plays. There are two different one-act plays.
The first one is called Juvie by Jerome McDonough. I'm directing it at the West Campus, which is not the Annex. And it's about several young people in juvenile detention center. And it's a series of monologues and short scenes and flashbacks depicting how they got into juvie and how they're dealing with the situation of being in that place with other people. It's a very high tension, dramatic piece.
I think what's interesting about the plays that you do, it's not just you pick a play and here you go, study the role and do it, but the students really are so engaged and learn about the characters and past history and how it interplays with them.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been watching a lot of documentaries on YouTube from PBS and CBS about current lives of juvenile delinquents, and we've bought two books, one of which is a photo documentary of juvenile hall in America, and each of my students has been taking it home for a week throughout the whole process and looking at the photos and discovering, you know, which people kind of relate to their own characters. So it's been a really interesting process.
Sure.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to hear from the students how maybe this gives them a different view of what they really thought. I mean, you have good students, but you know, really that maybe it brings it more real. Maybe they hear some of the stories, but it doesn't seem as real.
Absolutely. I think it's been really humbling for them to see what a lot of kids their age and younger have gone through, and having to portray that in their own bodies, their physicality, has been difficult but very interesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
How many students are involved in the play?
In total, in Juvie, I think it's 17. Yeah.
And how about you, Rachael?
So in a parallel but different sort of difficult topic, the play that we are doing is called These Shining Lives. And it is based on the true story of the women who were called the Radium Girls. And they were a group of women who worked for a company called Radium Dial, that they worked in a workshop, a factory, where they painted watch dials with a paint compound that glowed in the dark, which was actually made with radium. And it starts out, the play starts out in the 1920s, it goes through the late 1930s. And it focuses on 4 women, particularly one woman who was a real person named Catherine Donahue, who worked at Radium Dial Company. And all of the women who worked there eventually had radium poisoning and all died at some point of radium poisoning. And the play takes a long span. It goes through the beginning of their time working together through their challenge in the court system. And it was one of the earliest cases of workers' compensation and a company having to be responsible for the health of the workers, which was not a sort of a common idea in the 1920s and 30s. In the play, the case goes all the way through the Supreme Court, where the women finally win their case. So it's, again, sort of an interesting piece of history that you know, we've maybe heard about, a little about. Interestingly, there was a PBS series just this last week on TV that featured an episode about the Radium Girls, about Radium Dial. So, you know, sort of an interesting part of our history, but one certainly the students weren't familiar with before.
Sure. And how do you go about selecting the play, and why that, and how do you incorporate that into the lessons for the students?
Well, I think when I, you know, we read a lot of plays, both Anne and I, you know, for class, thinking about things we would want to direct. And for me, when I read a play that really strikes me, it's usually a combination of things. One, as a director, it has to be something that I want to spend months on and not be sick of by the end. So that's always an aspect of it. Two is something that I feel like the students will both be challenged by, but be able to accomplish, so that it's not so challenging that it's completely out of the realm of something they can do well, but that it is a challenge enough that they can really sort of latch onto it. And then the other aspect is too, I mean, Sturgis is an IB school, and our students are dealing with world issues all the time and questioning and being encouraged to be really questioning, thoughtful, creative thinkers. And so finding things that will allow them to use those skills as well in what they're doing.
Yeah, I would add on to just logistically, Sturgis, we don't have the space to have a major production, so we look for plays that maybe have minimal set that we can
things
use.
that we can do well without a massive budget and space.
And be more creative with our set and costuming. So.
Yeah.
And this particular play that you're working on actually has a bigger, does it have a bigger cast or more students working on the production?
Well, I have 12 students who will be on stage, and then a large amount of students, probably about 10 core students who are working off stage, and then when we're taking both of these plays also to the Massachusetts Educational Theater Guild Festival, so it's a competition, and we'll be taking more students because we'll need help moving sets and those kind of things.
And actually, I wanted to ask you about that competition, and I know last year you took a play as well, and after these one-act plays, the students look for feedback for that very reason. Tell me a little bit about the competition and the experiences that the students have there.
The competition is an amazing experience. They're able to take something they've worked on for a long time and present it to 7 other schools, I think, at the venue that they're chosen for. And it's just a day of drama and theater and having fun and sharing their passion for the arts with other students from around Massachusetts. So it's a really, really fun, amazing, it's a competition, but there's sort of not a competition attitude throughout the whole day. Everyone's supporting each other and respecting the plays that are being put on. So it's just a great experience for the Sturgis kids to branch out and see what other students in Massachusetts are doing with theater as well.
Right. Again, that more worldly view.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think too, we were talking about, not having facilities. We don't have our own theater space. So it's the schools that host the festival tend to have really beautiful facilities. So it's great for our students to get to experience using those facilities as well.
I want to come back to school. I really do. So talking about, as we said, more embracing a worldly view, let's segue into eARTHchange, which is a collaboration with Cotuit Center for the Arts and Town of Barnstable and some of your students and some other students at Sturgis for this project in April.
Yep. Do you want to
Sure,
elaborate on Bread and Puppet?
Taking the idea of the issues of climate change and how it affects our community, Anna and I both, with our 11th grade IB theater classes, will be using that as inspiration, as a stimulus to create theater pieces. And we have chosen also to, besides having it be an exercise in devising and creating theater for our students, but to also use that for a specific technique. And we're taking the ideas of the Bread and Puppet Theater, which is a famous political, social, activist theater in Vermont that is actually celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. So it's a theater that's really endured for a long time. So we're taking their techniques and ideas of using theater for social, political change. And the other aspect of Bread and Puppet that fits so well into this project is they sort of
use recycled materials.
Yeah, it's sort of an anti-materialistic way of doing theater. And so they use recycled materials. They're
going to be building their own
create
puppets.
Everything out of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So taking that idea of being more earth friendly and creating all this theater out of old cardboard and chicken wire and things that we find.
Yeah, which is great, and that's part of what this exhibit is about, and having that conversation and in interesting and new ways to spark where are we at. It's difficult to look and say 50 years, but look how fast 50 years go and what's going to happen with the climate environment 50 years from now as well. So that's coming up at Cotuit in April, but let's just, for our viewers, let them know how they can get information on these 2 plays that are taking place the first week of February.
And you can purchase tickets.
Yes, that's what we want. We
Purchase
want
tickets,
everyone to
please,
go.
online at the Cotuit Center for the Arts website. They have an online ordering system, and tickets can be reserved that way. It's a small space, so
Only seats 25 people.
So tickets are going to sell out very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So very exciting. Well, I thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us what's happening. And I wish you all the success with the play. And we'll talk more as it gets closer to April about the exhibit there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. For Rachael and Anna, I'm Melissa Chartrand, wishing you an artful day.